Hey folks, I just wanted to give you an update on a couple things. We're going to do an update on where the Z1-R is right now in this video. We're getting really close to having body work on it. The way it sits right now, technically it's street legal too. I'll explain that as I go. The other thing I wanted to cover was this weekend on the 25th, Saturday the 25th, is the Florida Flywheelers. I call it the Big Show. It's probably their biggest day of the 4-day show that they have in February, which I think is the end of their show season if I remember correctly. And I went last year. I have a video on my channel for that. I'll put a link in the description on it. But I'm heading out there with my youngest kid, who's 30-something, youngest kid, I guess it's relative, on Saturday. And so there is a YouTube meet and greet usually there at the Ye Old Machine Shop. It's the machinist YouTubers. Last year, like A-Bomb79, Adam Booth was there. I don't know about if he's going to be there this year, but I know Keith Rucker's coming again, and Mark from Winky's Workshop, and several others. Dave Richards from Old Steam Powered Machine Shop up in New York State. He winters down not too far from me south in Florida here, so he's definitely going. He already announced that. So I'm just letting you know I'm going to be there as well, but I'm not one of these big shot YouTube channels like they have, where they get kind of invited to this, and they're the main star of the shows, really, or the show. But I will be there, and I'll make sure I make a point of looking around for any of my viewers. If you see me there, definitely say something. I believe that meet and greet is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, it's a building on site called the Ye Old Machine Shop. You'll be able to find it if you go. Anyway, that's the only update I had as far as non-motorcycle related. So let's go ahead and I'll give you a walk-around update on the Z1-R project. I can't remember if I already told you about the Kirker K&N. What am I thinking? The Kirker exhaust, but this is the modification bracket I made. I think I did cover that, so I'm just not going to go into it anymore. While I'm right here, though, we'll talk about the rear brake master. I finally got that back on. This was a royal pain in the butt. I have stripped and painted this, primed and painted it 4 times, because every time it would leak, and I could not figure out where it was leaking. Until I did figure out where it was leaking, it was around where this plastic reservoir goes into the main body. You need a special O-ring that Kawasaki never identified and doesn't sell. They never sold it. You had to buy the whole master cylinder if you could, even back then, to replace that O-ring. So there's I forgot what it's called, Redline Cycle Incorporated, I think in Indiana or something like that. And I ordered, he only sells them in pairs, so I ordered a pair. They're like $12 and change a piece for the O-rings, but they're the right side. In fact, they're very tight. When I went to put this back together yesterday, I put a little silicone grease on it. And let me tell you what, shoving it was not easy. But I did shove it, and I got it in and put the screws in, and it does not leak. So this is finally done. I have been wrestling with this thing for weeks now, but we got good rear brakes again, so that's all good. All right, so let's talk about carbs. I'm not going to run it for you in this video because, as I've mentioned about a dozen times, I don't like running it on the lift. I'd rather put it out on the road at this stage and continue to properly break it in. I did find what the problem was with it running, which I'll get into here in a second. It was not the carbs. But speaking of carbs, I got a message through Messenger, Facebook Messenger, from Old School Carbs. The gentleman that did these, and he's doing the flat slides, he should ship those on Monday. All right, so I'll have those by the middle of next week or so, and we'll have to take these up and put those on. The hell is that? We interrupt this dumb video for an important update. The flat slide carbs that this bonehead just mentioned are no bueno. Now, it turns out that the carb guy just got into them, and he sent me a couple of pictures after he took the float bowls off, and 2 of the 4 carbs have broken standoffs where the floats go. The float pins and the floaties go. Well, those are no good, and they've been JB welded by someone, and they're pretty rough. So guess what? We're going to run what they brung, or he brung, and we're going to keep these on. So there ain't going to be no flat slide action on this bike in the near future. Maybe in the distant future, I don't know. So now we return to this dumb video. Once I figured out what was causing that stumble, that major stumble, from idle all the way up to about 4,500 RPM, 3,000, 3,500 RPM, around there, I realized that my jetting was probably okay with the 20 in the slows, and I still definitely like the 117.5s in the mains. The problem was the mechanical advance behind here was all gummed up. This is something, in my opinion, that the engine builder should have checked, because he installed that. All you had to do was flick it and feel that it's all gummy. Now, there was some other issues with it that I dabbled with in regards to the spring tension, and I'm not going to get into that on this video because it's a little complicated. But what I ended up doing was I took it apart, cleaned it, greased it up, worked my magic on the other stuff, and then put it back in. I made sure that the timing was good because I made a mark where the backing plate was. I put my timing light on and started it up. My static timing, or that dynamic timing rather, at idle was perfect. And when I started to rev it up with my digital tachometer, I don't trust that one, it's reading high, it started to advance around 1350, 60, 70 RPM, which is the way it was supposed to do. The reason why it was going woo, 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 and then eventually it would just go boom and almost wheelie out from underneath you is because we weren't getting any advance on this till about almost 4,000 RPM. So that's why it was doing that. So once I corrected that, it absolutely runs like a different engine. I can't remember if I showed you this. I got a proper Pingle fuel tap that actually fits. It's a stout one, very short rather, that goes into that 22 millimeter bung. And there is plenty of room in there when you put this in. I'd say maybe an inch or more, inch and a quarter of space. All right, so that's the deal on the carbs. We got the headlight mounted, as you can see. This chrome surround is the one that came off this bike. This is not like your garden variety KZ1000 that uses that assembly that essentially is part, you know, the chrome ears that come off of these fork tube mounts here, and then you essentially bolt the headlight to that. It has the features to do that. Well, on this one, the Z1-R, it has these guys, of course, and you have to use something like this. Now, it was pretty rusty as far as surface rust goes. Let me zoom up on it. You can see it is pretty good now. All right, there's a little teeny bit that you can see if you really look at it close. But what I ended up doing was I took the chrome piece here, this mount, and I put it in white vinegar for 4 days. Just soaked it in a bucket of white vinegar, and that really took care of a lot of the rust that's in these little spots here, which is terrible design. It just gets crap and it rusts. I got as much out as I can. I did the best I could on it. Now again, most of this is covered, but you do see this inner one in particular, and that is new. So I got this. There's a kit that you can get for these. I think it was from Z1 Enterprises, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a new chrome surround, the actual surround for the headlight itself, you know, with the reflector and everything. You pull the H4 bulb out and you can reach in there with a rag and some glass cleaner, and so I cleaned up the inside of this because it was all foggy. And then for the inside mount part, there's this guy, which also comes in the kit. This was pretty crusty, so I got, you know, I put that in as well. And yeah, I think it's about as good as it's going to get. I mean, I can't get any better. I did try to source one of these. I found a hit on one on another continent. I can't remember which one. It was new old stock, and it was huge, huge money. And I said, no, we're not doing that. Now, if he wants to do that, he can do that himself. But I'm not doing that because, number one, I don't have a lot of that money in my account to go to this kind of stuff. And number two, if he wants to go buy it, that's fine. You know, I'm going to use what I can on this job. You know, that's the way it is. We got to get this out of here. So if he wants to update that someday, that's fine. I do have new old stock fasteners. These are all proper OEM fasteners up front here. So everything has been done properly as far as the fasteners go. So that's kind of cool. The way this works is you have an adjuster screw for left to right, and you have a slot up in here. So this whole there's a little tang that runs up off of this chrome piece that runs up into that bolt right there, and that way you can move it up and down. So it goes this way and slides up and down in that slot. So that's all done. Turn signals are in. The only thing I don't like about the turn signals, the customer/owner provided them to me, and these are all four the same, which they're not supposed to be. The front signals are supposed to be technically three wire, you know, ground, and then you have a essentially a running light, and then you have turn signal. These are all 2-wire, so just one element or one filament in the bulb and in the ground. So the way they came, there was only one wire coming out of these, and you're supposed to use the thing that comes with it is like a ground lug with a wire that goes into the bayonet plug, or I'm sorry, those bullet connectors rather. And so I don't like doing it that way because these always get, you know, screwed up, corroded, that go behind here, those terminals. So I just took them apart and ran a second wire in, and I put it, you know, the way it screws into a bracket inside there was a perfect opportunity just to crimp another ring terminal on, put it in the other screw, run it out, and then I can go directly into the bullet connector, which is what I did. So I know these are going to work for a long time. They all work really good, but again, we don't have the lights that just come on when you're running it around with the headlight, all right? And the rear signals are the same. All 4 of them work, so we're good there. There is no self-canceling on this one. There's a module for it. This is a self-canceling module here. This is actually this is the operating unit for the signals and the self-canceling. There's a wire that I have wire tied up in here that goes to a movement sensor. That wasn't on this. I don't even know where I'd get one, so we're leaving that off. It's just wire tied up out of the way. But the signals do work. I've got the wiring pretty buttoned up where I like it right now. I'm not too happy with the wire coming off of the OEM harness, and especially on that side, if the handlebars were turned to the left, like if you were parked somewhere, you know, that cafe fairing doesn't extend very far back. So I think I'm going to be pulling the headlight back out again, which just takes a minute, and disconnecting plugs. And I think I'm going to retape some of these plugs to extend the black tape out closer to the end. That's going to make it look a lot better. Yeah, you see what I mean? I just don't like that. I have a wire tie hanging from a bracket up in here to keep this up in the air. This harness, being aftermarket, really needed to be about 1 inch longer coming up to the front. It can't go any more this way. It's just the way it is. But it really needed to be about 1 inch longer. So, you know, once I did that and got it up in the air here so it wouldn't be pulling on any of the plugs, it's going to be fine right there. But I'd like to tape these up. I really just don't like the way they look. And they're going to be visible to some degree. So in the near future, I'll take this apart and get that done. But it's not anything pressing. I'd rather get the major stuff out of the way that I need to get done before I start messing with the detail stuff. And so some of that is putting the plastics on. And what I did was I did the rear fender. As you can see, this is 2-piece, the inner or the forward one, and then the back one. I painted these up with a plastic paint. Normally I like to use actually duplicolor engine paint, the ceramic based engine paint, the Ford engine paint in particular, which is essentially just like this one, the sheen wise when it comes out, but it sticks to plastic great. No auto parts store around me had any. In fact, several of them I went to one day, they had almost no paint. And I'm like, what's going on? They said, we just can't get it. We haven't had it in a while. So, yeah, thanks for all the supply chain issues, I guess. To whom that is directed is up to you. And so, but I did find some VTH 200-degree plastic paint. It says specifically do not sand unless you're doing a repair, and don't use any adhesion promoter. Spray it right on. It does work really well. And I saved the stickers by masking them off. This one had overspray, like from somebody trying to spray paint something in situ at some point, and but it was like flat, so it was easy to get off with just some rubbing alcohol and a rag. And so I saved the stickers that are in here. That came out pretty good. I do like that. I didn't want to lose the stickers, so they came out really well. The other problem we have is the chain guard, which I'll show you here. This unfortunately needs to be redone. But for now, it's going to work. The reason why it needs to be redone is because some dummy didn't try to fit this before they painted it. I don't know who that is. And so what happened was when I fitted it this morning, because I painted this yesterday, these Hagen shocks hit the chain guard, and I had to cut out a section to get it to clear. Now, some of you guys have reached out in the comments and said, why are the rear shocks upside down? They are not upside down. You can see the Hagen logo is upright, and they were emphatic about having them in this position. So So I have them installed as they say to install them. But unfortunately, with all that mass down here of the the coil, which doesn't even give you a whole lot of room between the chain here, to be honest with you, this guy just would not fit. It was pushing against the chain and sprocket hard. So that screwed up a little of the paint, scraped it here. So all I did was cut this out. Cut it out! Used a hole saw and a little jig I made and put it in Dad's old bench, that wood vise over there. And then used a hole saw with the main drill as a pilot and cut a semicircle here. And then dressed it up, and it does fit fine. All I did was touch it up. I'm out of paint anyway. I don't have any more. So if I can find some more paint, I'll take this off in the future, and I'll get this done better. But it's kind of beat up anyway. This is the original one that was on this bike. I didn't like modifying an original chain guard, but this thing is pretty trashed. I mean, it's got some really bad damage back here, right there where it was hitting the wheel apparently, and scratches and stuff all over it. So yeah, it's gonna work for now. I gotta have something on there because it's spraying all that juice off the chain. Even though I wiped it all off, it's spraying it everywhere. So we gotta have a chain guard. We'll use it for now, and then I'll fix that later. We'll get it all fixed up, and I'll do a better job on it. I'm definitely not gonna leave it like this because I don't do that kind of work. So like I said, I'll have to wet sand it down at a time after this fully dries and cures, but for now it's going to work fine. All right, I know you're going to ask about the wheels, and I would if I were you. I do not know what we're going to be doing with the wheels. These obviously are the original ones. Personally, I would prefer to see these taken off and sent out and be painted, or hell, I could give them a shot in-house, clean them up and paint them. But it would be expensive and a lot of labor and time to do that. So he might want to just send them out. I don't know, but I could certainly do that. I could certainly get the aluminum to pop and then paint the, somewhat of a flat black, I guess, or maybe a black with some sort of a satin or a flat clear over them. I could definitely get them done, but it would be a lot, and I mean a ton of work. But he's talking about changing the rear end again. I haven't heard any dialogue on it lately, but this was something he's mentioned a number of times. He wants to go with not necessarily a longer swing arm so we can preserve the chain, but because that's a brand new chain, and I've already riveted it, but a wider swing arm so you can put a fatter tire in the back, and that includes the rims. So supposedly, I don't know if he's bought it or not already, but supposedly there's a package that you can get with a wider swing arm, same stock length, with a fat wheel or rim, the rim for a fat wheel on the back, and a larger one on the front too, slightly larger. He mentioned something about the rims, and I said, well, he wanted to bring them over. I guess he does already have them. I said, the rims without any tires on them don't do me any help at all. So get some tires put on, and then I can tell you whether or not they're going to fit. They're most certainly not going to fit with the stock swing arm, to my knowledge. I don't think they're going to fit. So you got to put a wider swing arm on. Now, if we do that, we're going to have to change the rear brake. This is going to require some extensive modification on this brake lever, and I'm going to need another brake lever for that. I'm not going to butcher this one up. But this brake lever needs to come off, and another one has to be fabricated, or changed, I should say, to fabricate this to flip it over to the other side. So this will actually be addressing the master cylinder at an angle, but it should work okay because this inlet where that piston is kind of tapered. So it's kind of a tapered top of this push rod. I think it would come out to that angle and still actuate your brake no problem. But there's gonna be some. I have to take it apart. I have to cut it off, flip it around, make sure it's clocked properly, do some tack welding in situ. I mean, it's gonna be some work. So I know I can do it. I already have a plan in mind, but I'm not going to do it on this one. This one is too nice, and it's powder coated. Although I hate powder coating, so if it gets destroyed, I guess two birds in one, right? No, I'm kidding. So yeah, I do not know what we're going to do or what he's going to do with wheels, but for now, these are just staying on it for purposes of test riding and getting it to the point where it's completely roadworthy. We can always deal with the wheels and tires at a later time. I did the helmet holder, the helmet lock. He's never going to use this. I'm guaranteeing you it'll never get used. It's only on there because it's supposed to go on there. So this is all clean painted up, and I buffed this, and This was considerably rusty. So when I cleaned it off, you could see the brass, or the copper rather, that they put underneath before they put chrome on steel. I just painted that up because, like I said, it is not ever going to get used. I'll eventually find some new ones of these acorn nuts too for the rear shock. These are the proper ones. These are the ones that come off for the rear shock studs here. But for now it's going to work. But well, I guess that's it on this video. I just wanted to show you where we were at on this and then tell you about the thing on this Saturday the 25th out at the Florida Flywheelers. If you Google Florida Flywheelers, you'll be able to find their website. And they have a good website where you can go in there and take a look at what goes on as far as their shows. And then if you're in the area, definitely think about coming out this Saturday for that show. I can tell you that this show is ginormous. And what I mean by show is they have a swap meet, which is so big that I rent a golf cart. They have national carts that come out, that company. And I rent a golf cart, a gas-powered golf cart. So sorry, Greta.
How dare you?
We're using gas-powered. Get over it. But yeah, I rent a golf cart and ride it around, and it's so large, it's the only way to cover it because I'm getting old. I'm not dealing with walking around in that dirt all day long. And so, you know, that's how big this place is. But the show part is not just a swap meet. They have tractor shows. They have demonstrations of their snow machine, their snow big fly. It looks like a steam engine, but it's actually an LPG. It was or natural gas powered, you know, big flywheel type of an engine. All right, looks like a big old steam engine, a fixed mount one. I don't know how else to describe it, but it runs on gas, and it came out of the gas field somewhere. I don't know. You'd have to look online. I don't remember the exact history of it, but they run that thing couple times on Saturday too at different periods, and so you go to see that. They have a tractor, vintage tractors on display. They got a parade a couple of times, or at least once a day. Food vendors, you know, water, anything else you need in there is pretty good. So it is a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to going out again. And again, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm told, is the YouTube meet and greet, the machinist meet and greet for the YouTube creators. Now remember, I am not saying that I'm one of those, you know, that are going out there for that particular or specific purpose. Those are the big shots that get invited to that. I'm just going out there because A, I don't live very far away, and B, I got a YouTube channel, so I want to schmooze with the other bigger creators and talk to them. Yeah, so if you're in the area, definitely come out. That's it on this one. Pretty soon, again, we're going to be starting to get some plastics on this. Start at the front fairing and work our way back. Well, there's not a whole lot, actually. The front fairing, the side covers, and that cowl, big deal. I probably will wait till last on the tank. Probably keep using that tank right there until we get everything buttoned up 100% before I take that tank with all the nice paint on it and put it on, you know, where it's going to live. Yeah, so but like I said, we are getting really, really close on this one. Next video on this, we'll definitely take it for another ride. Most likely have the flat slides on it, and we'll see how it goes at that point. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you out on Saturday the 25th out at the Flywheelers. If not, we'll see you on the next video.